Well, for more additional perspective on the importance of this race, I want to talk to CNN political commentator, well-known face here. We haven't spoken to in a while, Bakari Sellers. Bakari, great to see you. Great to have you back on the show. Let me get then your reaction to what we saw in Michigan, because I was hearing El Sayed saying today that, you know, we shook up the world. How much of a shake-up and a wake-up call is his win, not just for the Democratic Party, but for those moderate Dems?
No, I hate to throw water on someone's celebration or bring some type of sobering reality. But the fact is, Abdul al-Sayed won with less than 50% of the vote. That's first and foremost. The second thing is he did what DSA and what many of my far left progressives do, and which is win college-educated white voters in suburban communities. He didn't win rural voters. He didn't win minority voters. In fact, he got trounced with both of those by Haley Stevens. And so I say all that to say that while people want to talk about a shakeup, instead, I want people for the next 89 days to be looking towards the work that needs to be done, because we've seen DSA win in places like Seattle. We've seen them win in New York City, but we haven't seen them win in Wisconsin. We haven't seen them win in Michigan. We haven't seen them win throughout the South, because many times those far left ideals, when too left, are outwardly rejected by the base of the party.
On that, then, let's talk about what he needs to do. Michigan Democratic Senator Gary Peters basically saying in the last, hour or so, Bakari, that Democrats need to unite behind him, but really emphasizing that he needs to make inroads immediately with the party. So speak to that. What does he need to do to try and beat the Republican candidate in 90 days' time? What should his focus be on right now?
So the first thing is you have to go and coalesce your base. I mean, 48% of the people who voted in the primary, actually more than 48, closer to 50%. There were 55,000 people who voted for McMorrow, who wasn't on the ballot, Mallory McMorrow, who wasn't on the ballot. So 50% of the party did not vote for him to be the nominee, which means you got a whole hell of a lot of work to do. He has to start in those urban areas. He has to start in those rural areas. He has to make sure that he's taking a message of unification, talking about what Michiganders want, not just saying that I am going to be this progressive ideologue or this far left king of all things politics, or, you know, listening to the internet per se, but having town hall meetings, talking about issues that really matter. I was having a conversation earlier today with a friend, and he was like, name one issue that is out of touch with the majority of Americans or the Democratic base. I said, abolishing the police. I said, nobody wants to abolish. My mama doesn't want you to abolish the police. She wants better police. And so those are things that we have to have conversations about. And people say things and do things to win primaries, and then they have to change course to win general elections. I'm intrigued to see, because I do not want Mike Rogers in the United States Senate. 2006 is just too critical.
Yeah. Do you think he has a chance of beating him, Bakari?
Yes, of course. He definitely has a chance. He just has to put the work in. He's a brilliant man. I mean, he's done the work in family health centers, and probably the largest family health center in the country in the city of Detroit. Like he's put the work in. Can he win? Yes. Does he have to do the work? And that's the problem I have with many of my friends to the left, because you're in a primary, don't spike the football and do a touchdown dance. The game ain't over yet.
Game and over. Look, and you're right, the race was extremely tight, winning by less than 15,000 votes in what I saw was a record-breaking voter turnout, right? But now you have this split, and you were talking to that, within the Democratic Party, very big divisions within the Democratic Party. Let me just play for you what Bernie Sanders said last night. Have a listen to this, Bakari.
I think what we are seeing, no matter what happens tonight in Michigan, and I hope very much that El Sayed wins, is you're seeing a transformation of the Democratic Party. And what the debate within the Democratic Party is about, it's not only about ideology. It's not only ideology that we disagree with the Democratic leadership about, it's how you do politics.
How do you react to that? I mean, really in the months ahead, how the Democratic Party comes together, because not everyone is behind him, of course. But it will be interesting to see how they unite, if they can unite, because we've already seen the Republicans putting ads out against him.
I mean, there's an age-old saying that Democrats fall in love and Republicans fall in line, right? And so at the end of the day, it's a binary choice. Do you want Abdul Saeed or do you want Mike Rogers? And for many people, that's a very easy choice. Democrats aren't going to be, the say-all, end-all for this particular race. It's going to be those folk in the middle of the country, in the middle of the political spectrum, that truly decide. I hear Bernie Sanders, and he's not all the way wrong or all the way right in his analysis. He's forgetting one thing: that people around the country, Democrats and Republicans, are outright rejecting the status quo. It's not necessarily that we're having this huge shakeup. The Republicans are going through the same thing, where people have been in office for a very long period of time are just getting chucked out. People are tired of the same old, and he's right about that. But it's not partisan. It's the fact that our political system is really going through a rebirth, because the status quo is getting thrown out, and out with the old and in with the new.
Yeah, and maybe it's the consistency in that message that is so important. Bakari, great to have you on the show. We always appreciate your analysis and really value it. Bakari Sellers there for us.